know.
I hate those little things.
I hate all of these things.
Yeah. They should be so simple to operate, and they're not. They're just not.
I had one in my bag, and they threw my bag or my folder on top of the hood of the car, and I threw some stuff in the back thing, and I forgot about it. The thing went flying off.
Oh, how funny.
It survived. I was like,
Nice,
good.
nice, yeah.
Now my little folder, not so much.
Yeah.
I had to order another one.
How funny.
That little road rash.
Okay.
Cool, so we're returning from executive session, conferring with our attorney for the purpose of receiving legal advice pertaining to Taha versus Tad. Attending the executive session was me, Zach Shapiro.
One more now.
Joe Richards,
Les Downs.
Thomas Murphy.
David Dutray,
Nick Martin.
Barbara Fisk.
And that puts us back at 1640.
Yes.
The intercom.
Yes.
There it is, yeah, I gotta get the upstairs intercom.
Exactly.
Gotta get that one buzzing.
That's right. Gotta reach all sectors.
the rivalry,
Cool, so we'll move on to item number 9, old business. Yeah, so I guess, yeah, I'll bring up, I've got a couple of them. One was the KISS license.
Okay. We can put that there. So, our application for the KISS license was approved. They were supposed to schedule with me like a month and a half ago to do the little walkthrough, and look at our policies and stuff, and that hasn't happened. So I sent them an email 2 weeks ago and said, hey, I haven't heard anything, wondering where we're at, so we're just kind of in a holding pattern.
Gotcha.
So, application's been approved, they accepted it, just waiting on the inspection and where to go from there.
Cool. Another one I had, does anybody else have any?
Oh, the other thing I wanna mention
Yeah, for sure.
is we can still have a KISS license as an ambulance district. So for whatever reason, if we don't do the health service district thing, we can still hold that KISS license.
Okay,
So the money that we put out for the KISS license isn't just kind of wasted.
okay. What will the KISS license allow us to do as an ambulance district?
The same things,
Okay, cool.
community paramedics, that's
Sweet, that's awesome.
So the only reason we were going for the KISS license first was because that allows us to go for the health service district without having to go for permission.
That's what puts it under CDPHE.
Yep.
Got you. Okay, cool. Anybody have any questions? Does anybody else have any? I have a couple other old business, but if anybody has another one. I was gonna ask about if you found anything on a new accountants? Is that?
Yeah, yep. So we went with WSDM out of Springs,
Got you.
and we're starting with them July 1.
Got you. And then same but different, if you had found anything on commercial realtors for the,
So we reached out to Lisa Mayers and Spencer Fain to see if she could find us a real estate attorney,
got you.
because we were advised that that's probably a better route to go.
I know one that's pretty good with Colorado. I could at least run him this way.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't had any luck.
What's
She
his
was
last
still,
name?
I think she reached out to somebody.
It's who we used him as our like realtor. He's like a friend, but he's a real estate attorney for many years in the state. So I could see if he's interested at least.
Yeah, that'd be good, because we need to do something with this building soon.
Okay.
So we haven't listed it with anyone?
No, I haven't been able to find, I reached out to a couple real estate attorneys, I reached out, yeah, it was just real estate attorneys that I reached out to. I didn't do any realtors, because they said that I heard that it was better to go through a real estate attorney because they don't have the commission and all that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. And if he is interested, do you want me to just have him contact you? Barbara. Cool.
Is anybody, knowing that this is for sale, has anybody contacted you privately?
No, so the housing authority contacted our IT guy, Hayden, but has not asked us anything, so I don't know how legitimate or how serious they are.
IT guy.
and then, that company at Alamosa.
I heard something, I think it's the company that's coming in, I think it's who we talked to maybe, but there was someone that I talked to, Candy, I forget her last name, but she does work with Keep Trinidad Safe, I believe it is, and they were
Marcy?
talking about an organization that they know. I think was-
You mean Marcy?
No, Candy, her husband's Dennis, I don't
Oh.
remember their last name.
Oh, that's probably who they're talking about then,
Yeah.
or the ones that we talked to.
Yeah,
Reed and-
I think so. 'Cause that was my impression, was it sounded very, her vague information sounded very, very similar to them. So I think that was probably it. And I just told her the same thing as, we have to, being a government entity, we still have to keep it open and keep it public and make sure it goes to the highest bidder, things like that, so.
Since we're talking about that, Kimberly Reed and her group reached out to us, wanted to know where we were at. And then they wanted to talk to Les. And so she spoke with Les, and she told Les that she expected the ambulance district to carry the note for,
Owner carry financing.
Yeah.
Yep. They wanted a discount and they expected the ambulance district
They
to
said
just take.
exactly the opposite of that in their thing, when they
So-
were presenting to us.
I
Dude,
think
with
so.
the-
Bart had a
Yeah.
great idea. And so, because the building's already paid for, we own it. We would be the bank,
Mhm.
we would just charge 6% interest, and we would carry the note, they would just pay us.
I mean,
And
if
then
we're
our-
not-
That defaults
And-
there.
But then
Yeah,
that's
as
the building back.
No, they'd have to, it'd all be written in there.
So,
But,
we
I mean,
would,
if there's good enough terms for if they default and what happens then that's not necessarily a terrible idea. It's just, like I said, I'm put off because that's exactly not what they said.
right,
And you
That's
guys,
the-
I'm sorry, I don't mean to
No, you're
interrupt. They also want a discount. They do
Right,
not want to have to
that's-
pay full price, and that is verboten. And again, this is what I told her, and that is, if the ambulance district was like a general services entity, like a city or a county, you could decide as the governing body that it was important to you to have a rehab facility in the community, and you wanted to give them a break on that and sell it to them for a discount. Because you're not a general services kind of entity. You can't say that you will forego income you could otherwise receive on the sale of this very big asset, and be able to do that so that the community will benefit
If they
from
were
your
coming in
largesse.
with
You
like
can't do it.
neurologists and doctors and things like that, then even if if it was possible, I would be inclined to think about it. But it's like, guys, you're doing a sober living facility, a rehab type facility. That's awesome. That's really good. It's something great for the community. But discounts, which is exactly, he said, we're not looking for discounts. We're not going to ask for that sort of thing. And that bugs me personally, where you come up and you tell us one thing and then a couple weeks later, a month later, it's
And
different.
remember, he did say that the county did discount over in Alamosa.
Right.
Did discount that. They were not looking for that,
Mhm.
but they were interested to see if we would carry it. They
What
could
kind
say
of-
that. What kind
See,
of-
that doesn't put me off as much.
Right.
It's a little weird, but it's not as bad to me as the now we are looking for a discount, and it's been what, 2 months?
Right.
And so that to me is
What
not.
kind of what kind of cash are they gonna put down?
and I-
so we haven't gotten that far, that's why we wanted to talk to a real
Just
estate
general
attorney
That
first.
would be
Conversations.
significant. It's not a
I would
significant
think,
amount of
I would
money.
think they'd have to
They have
put
nothing to lose, and I don't.
200,000 down, pay you 6% interest. Our USDA loan is 2.5%.
Mhm.
But
So
would
we can offset.
I would think the USDA, if they could get like $1.5 million right now, repayment or whatever you have to do, right, versus running the risk of loaning money in essence.
Yeah, but we're not loaning it, it's our money.
Yeah,
We're
I
just
know,
gonna,
yeah,
no
it's still-
money
it's
is
still a
going
loan.
out
I
from the
mean,
district.
I know.
It is still
Still-
kind
Where
of.
they're just owning
yeah.
us,
I
and
know,
if
you're-
they
you're
bail, then
granting
we
them
sell it
credit.
again.
Right,
I'm
that's-
just saying,
yeah.
it-
They are still being granted credit in
Yeah.
a way.
Have you
It's like
heard-
it may not be anything liquid.
have you
look
heard
at
from
this,
her
but-
since I talked to her?
No,
Okay.
Um,
I don't
It's
think
just been
What's
general
the-
conversations.
What's the reality of selling this building though?
Yeah,
Honestly,
really?
in this market, in this
Yeah.
place, in this economy,
Unless, if they give a significant down payment, then I'm more inclined to do it. If they're saying, well, look, we just,
Yeah.
everything's good, we just want to take the building and start making your payments,
Yeah.
that won't fly. They have to have some skin in the game.
Is there anything else on the market, sorry, Tom, and then totally you, is there anything else on the market that's similar to this that like so we don't really know until it gets put out, at least, if there's some other organization that would wanna come in.
So when we did our,
Sorry, Tom.
not evaluation, I'm sorry.
No, I did it too, I'm just.
Appraisal.
The appraisal,
Yeah.
they did a comparison, building comparison, they did cost comparisons, they did vicinity, and there really isn't anything like this.
So that to me is like, it puts it at least, you very likely may be right, but for me, it at least puts the question mark over it, because it may be something that, because it's not an available resource in most places, there might be an organization somewhere else that we just don't know
10
about.
years ago, it could have been a great marijuana shop.
I know.
Yeah.
You guys ever heard about What's up, Tom?
So after watching Trinidad for 40 years, boom and bust, I don't think we're in a boom right now.
No.
If the coal mine, and we saw traffic going by, or, back in the day when the oil and gas fields, and this was a high, it was like a freeway.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't take, like Joe, it's like, in this economy, I wouldn't be too bold to say, we want to sell it for whatever.
Right.
I would look at every opportunity, because I've been in business here for 40 years, and if it means, seller financing, that's pretty typical in the business world, where you buy something, nobody has $2 million to come in and write a check generally.
Right, yeah.
When we bought the newspaper, the owners carried part of the deal. I mean, that usually, and if you have that much money, you're probably not going to buy a business that's struggling.
Right.
So the point of what I have to say is we need to not take anything off the table of anything. It'd be great if our neighbors next door here said, yeah, we want it too, and we'll take it, and think that you're going to get a big price. But
I totally agree. I think with the right guidance and with terms that are favorable to us in whatever agreement we would end up writing out in this situation, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's something that could be a very good option for us, but I do like that the idea of moving towards some kind of real estate attorney to find out.
but like sorry, Les,
No, go ahead, I'm sorry.
but I think who's ever carried whatever note that we used to borrow, the one thing, everything's negotiable. And in all the years that I've been dealing with people, it's like, call them up and say, here's what we can do.
Right.
I'm like, well, okay, we'll adjust.
Yeah.
I just want to
Right.
strongly emphasize, okay, and I cannot say this clearly or emphatically enough, and that is, there may be someone out there who will buy this building, and you're not going to know until you have some kind of ballpark appraisal, whatever it's going to be, and you list it on the market. You have to do that.
The market.
Good.
part
Okay,
is-
right, you got the appraisal.
Yeah.
I know.
I think the market, I do agree with that too.
Yeah.
Let's talk to the new attorneys.
Yeah, what'd you say they are?
Oh, that hurts. That hurts.
Yeah.
That's there's so many attorneys. Right, that's hysterical. But anyway,
No, I agree with both of these points, where on one hand, it is kind of, I think it is a bit of a bust market right now in many different regards, but also it being such a specific use type building, there is, to me, the chance that there's someone that we don't know. They're from out of town, they're from, northern Colorado or Denver area or whatever, that just can't find this type of building anywhere else in the state. And so I think market is definitely something that is on my mind as well, just to see that, if the people are out there or not, before we were to agree to something like funding the whole thing.
This is just informational.
Yeah.
We're waiting on it.
Yeah.
To certainly respect your passion, sir.
what did you say, Barb?
So we're just trying to get into the new building first.
Yeah,
Get that
right. I
taken
know
care of.
exactly.
Yeah, the little
Let's get that
bakeries.
all closed out.
That's right.
And then we can do this, please.
Thank you, Bubba. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You love my passion, don't you?
Little socks.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry. The socks are not
I'm
good.
really, I'm here for your fashion. I'm like, what's he gonna wear this week?
At least I'm not wearing jeans today.
Yeah,
Or
hey.
tennis shoes.
Hey, what you got wrong with jeans?
Yeah, right. I know. At least I
Now
wear
I feel
socks
personally
with
attacked.
jeans. Yeah.
I know a hit attorney.
Here you
Oh, I've had enough of you against telling your attorney checks. This corner here is.
go. We're on fire. Cool, does anybody have any additional old business or any additional questions or? Cool. Then that'll move us on to item number 10, new business. Says iBank account. Is that what I signed up for?
Yes.
Is that all the
So-
paperwork that I wrote my social security number on?
Well, maybe.
There was a lot of times I had to write my social, so. I
So
figured
I'm
it had to be
excited
bank.
about our new accounting company. They are getting us set up with QuickBooks Online so that we will all have the same view at the same time
Awesome.
and everything will be real time. It's gonna be great.
Nice.
They did ask if they could have a view-only access to our bank accounts again, so that they can go in and see what money's coming in, see what's happening in order to keep our records
Right.
on a day-to-day basis instead of extended out a month or so.
Mhm.
So that's what the iBank question is, whether or not you guys, and the bank suggested, which we agreed, that they be signers on the account, but it's a view-only
Okay.
access.
Got you.
That way they have to provide their social security number, their phone number, their address, their blood type, their, you know? And so like and that's how I am on the account. I'm a
Okay.
signer, but I can only look at it.
Got you.
So,
Yeah, that's my
Anyway.
main question, is do you guys who deal with this regularly see any possibility of that being like a weakness or a opening?
No, I don't think it'll be an issue. I think it'll be better that they have their own access versus us sharing our passwords
Right.
or whatever.
Oh, yeah, totally,
Yeah.
yeah,
so
okay.
they'll set up their own
Yeah, that
access.
that makes it sound much better.
Yeah,
Mhm.
actually.
Mhm.
Okay.
So that's what that's requesting. So I just,
So do we need to do a vote on?
I would say yes, because it will be on the,
And the
on the
vote will
account.
be on giving them view-only signer access, is that?
Correct, to both the in-bank and the First National Bank.
Okay. So do we someone wanna make a motion on, giving approval for or I guess first, does anybody feel like they disapprove? Does someone wanna make a motion to give approval for, you said in-bank
And First National.
and First
Might as well
National?
make the motion, you already got it all put together.
I can't, I shouldn't, I'm not supposed to.
So moved.
So move.
So moved. I'll second.
Yeah.
We haven't actually said the words yet.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
okay.
did you send
All right,
it?
take two,
What's-
take two,
what's
take
the-
two.
What's the name of the company?
It's WSDM.
So we have to make a motion for WSDM to have permission to have you only access to the iBank and to the First National Bank
Correct.
of Trinidad.
Sweet.
That's why your motion.
That's
There's your
you.
motion. There's your motion.
Okay, Joe's in.
So you're the secretary/treasurer.
I second it.
Yeah. Slash.
You wrote the words and stuff.
I second it.
We have a seconder.
Thank you, Tom. Nick,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
So that will move us on to item number 11, the director's report,
Do
unless.
we need to do this under new business? The resolution?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Yes, yes, yes.
yeah. Scratch that. So under new business, we've got two resolutions. The first of which will be a resolution for the ambulance district to open up a transportation enterprise in regards to our debt and paying back the USDA loan.
So, do you wanna hand that to me and I will read the resolution? First page, the Board of Directors of the Trinidad Ambulance District, Trinidad, Colorado, met in regular session in full conformity with law and the resolutions and rules of the district at 939 Robinson Avenue and via virtual platform zoom.us, whereby all participants could hear and be heard while being protected from the publicly declared health risks associated with COVID-19. All in Trinidad, Colorado, on Wednesday, the 26th day of June, 2024 at 4 p.m. Upon roll call, the following were present, constituting a quorum: Zachary Shapiro, Nicholas Materano, Joseph Richards, Thomas Murphy, also present, Executive Director Gabriel Moreno. Thereupon, Director Zachary Shapiro introduced, and there was read in full the following resolution. Resolution number 24-0001. A resolution of the Trinidad Ambulance District, Colorado, establishing Trinidad Ambulance District Transportation Enterprise under the provisions of Title 32, Article 1, Colorado Revised Statutes, and repealing all resolutions or other acts in conflict herewith. Whereas the Trinidad Ambulance District, Trinidad, Colorado, otherwise known as the district, is a quasi-municipal corporation and political subdivision of the state of Colorado, duly organized and operating under the Constitution and laws of the state of Colorado. And whereas pursuant to the provisions of Title 32, Article 1, Colorado Revised Statutes, also known as the Special District Act, and other applicable laws, including the Colorado Constitution, special district entities, which have their own bonding capacity under applicable law, are authorized: 1, to establish or continue to maintain enterprises for the purpose of pursuing and continuing government-owned business activities, which includes the construction, operation, repair, and replacement of operational facilities; and 2, to issue or reissue bonds, notes, or other obligations payable from the revenues derived or to be derived from the business activities and functions, services, benefits, or facilities, or from any other available funds of the enterprise, the terms and conditions of such bonds or other obligations to be set forth in the resolution authorizing the same. And whereas in order to qualify as an enterprise under applicable law, the enterprise must consist of a government business owned by a government entity such as the district, which enterprise receives under 10% of its annual revenues in grants from the Colorado state and local governments combined, and which is authorized to issue its own revenue bonds. And whereas the district has heretofore determined and undertaken to acquire and develop certain properties, facilities, and services for the provision, maintenance, and operation of transportation services, which facilities are operated and maintained as a single public business and income-producing project, also called the system. And whereas it is the intent of the district to operate the system as a transportation enterprise and to formally establish the Trinidad Ambulance District Transportation Enterprise under the Special District Act and applicable laws. Be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Trinidad Ambulance District, Trinidad, Colorado. Section 1. Establishment of enterprise. There is hereby established pursuant to the terms and provisions of the Special District Act, Title 32, Article 1, Colorized Revised Statutes, and other applicable laws, the Trinidad Ambulance District Transportation Enterprise, also known as the Enterprise. The enterprise shall consist of the system, which is the transportation business represented by all of the district's transportation services, facilities, and properties now owned or hereafter acquired, whether situated within or without the district boundaries, including all present or future improvements, extensions, enlargements, betterments, replacements, or additions thereof or thereto. The enterprise shall have all the authority, powers, rights, and obligations and duties as may be provided or permitted by the Special District Act, Colorado law, and the Colorado Constitution, and may be further prescribed by resolution of the district. Section 2. Governing body. The governing body of the enterprise, also known as the governing body, shall be the Board of Directors of the district, and shall be subject to all the applicable laws, rules, and regulations pertaining to the Board of Directors. Whenever the Board of Directors is in session, the governing body shall also be deemed to be in session. It shall not be necessary for the governing body to meet separately for the regular and special meetings of the Board of Directors, nor shall it be necessary for the governing body to specifically announce or acknowledge that actions taken thereby are taken by the governing body of the enterprise. The governing body may conduct its affairs in the same manner and subject to the same laws which apply to the board of directors for the same or similar matters, provided that in accordance with section 32-1-101
It's sec.
at SEC, okay, Colorado revised statute, the governing body may authorize the issuance of bonds by adoption of a resolution. Section 3, events and enterprise status. The enterprise shall at all times and in all ways conduct its affairs so as to continue to qualify as an enterprise within the meaning of Article 10, Section 20, Colorado Constitution. Specifically, but not by way of limitation, the enterprise is not authorized and shall not receive 10% or more of its annual revenue in grants from all Colorado state and local governments combined. Section 4, issuance of bonds. The enterprise is authorized to issue bonds, notes, or other obligations payable from the revenues derived or to be derived from the system in accordance with the Special District Act. The Board of Directors may also authorize the issuance of such bonds, notes, or other obligations in accordance with the laws of the state of Colorado, and in doing so shall be deemed to be acting as both the governing body and the Board of Directors. Section 5, transportation enterprise fees and charges. The Board of Directors shall adopt by resolution for and on behalf of the enterprise the following rates, fees, and charges. A, minimum and sufficient service and transportation rates and fees. B, facility investment fees. And C, other fees and charges as the Board of Directors deems necessary to cover the cost of operations, maintenance, and extensions of the system. Section 6, transportation enterprise annual budget. The board shall adopt an annual budget for the enterprise separate from the district's general fund budget. Section 7, transportation revenue fund established. There is hereby established an enterprise fund to be known as the Transportation Revenue Fund, in which shall be deposited all revenues from transportation and transportation-related billing and other revenues related to the system. All funds received from the transportation services shall be used only for the operation, maintenance, debt service, replacement of, and additions to the system. All amounts on hand in such fund shall be invested by the Board of Directors in investment property proper for public funds. The enterprise may pledge all or any portion of the Transportation Revenue Fund, including revenues anticipated to be collected, to the payment of principal, interest, premium, if any, and reserves for revenue bonds or any other obligations lawfully issued or otherwise contracted for by the enterprise for the payment or other financing costs of the system, or for the purpose of refunding any obligations issued or otherwise contracted for such purpose. Section 8, ratification and approval of prior actions. All actions heretofore taken by the officers of the district and the members of the Board of Directors not inconsistent with the provisions of this resolution relating to the operation or creating of the enterprise are hereby ratified, approved, and confirmed. Section 9, repealer. All orders, rules, bylaws, and resolutions of the district or parts thereof inconsistent or in conflict with this resolution are hereby repealed to the extent only of such inconsistency or conflict. Section 10, severability. If any section, paragraph, clause, or provision of this resolution shall for any reason be held to be invalid or unenforceable, the invalidity or unenforceability of such section, paragraph, clause, or provision shall not affect any of the remaining provisions of this resolution, the intent being that the same are severable. Section 11, recording and authentication. Upon adoption hereof, this resolution shall be recorded in a book kept for that purpose and shall be authenticated by the signatures of the President and District Secretary. Introduced and passed as a resolution of the board at a regular meeting of the Board of Directors on the 26th day of June 2024, and it has a line for Zachary Shapiro, President's signature, and Joseph Richards, Secretary. And then it also has I don't know if I need to read this, it's the section where you will document your vote. And then there is a certification for Joe to sign to hereby certify that the foregoing pages, numbers 2 to 6 inclusive, constitute a full and correct copy of the record of the proceedings of the Board of Directors for this meeting.
I'm sorry, I kind of drifted off. Could you reread the whole thing?
And all of this from a kid in the 3rd grade who had to go to special reading and could never, even through high school, read out loud in public.
That's good.
So,
Especially because I didn't have to do it, that felt
I know,
great.
Very well done.
right? So,
So we do need a vote on this, correct?
yes,
Okay, so in short, it's creating the transportation enterprise in order to
Take on the USDA loan.
effectively receive the USDA loan.
So is that gonna make a separate account that's gonna go to? How's that, where's that money gonna come from, I guess? is the-
So basically, we're just gonna take our billing stuff, which is already transportation, and just put that into the enterprise fund.
Oh, okay.
So,
what we're basically, a little more complicated than basic, but we'll take our budget and we're gonna take and just kind of split it into, you're gonna have your transportation funds and expenses in this one, and we're gonna have operational where we would receive our property taxes, and other expenses will come out of that one.
mine was time saving.
Why didn't you tell us that in the beginning, when you read the whole
I'm
thing?
I'm studying,
Yeah,
I'm studying
right.
to be a lawyer.
Right.
It's more words.
The
Takes longer.
10%, is
I
that
can bill.
a realistic number?
Yeah, I think
Is
I think we'll be fine with that. We don't, the only grant that we get is the state, trauma grant. And that's 50% match. And I think at most, we get back maybe 100,000.
And the only thing, if I understood correctly, the only revenues then that would be considered for our grants is the operational fund,
Right.
not the transportation revenue.
What about rigs? Like,
Yeah,
what is
so
it?
that's all gonna be under transportation, under the enterprise.
We'll be all right then.
Yep.
Because I know you apply for the grant, you pay so much, and then we have to match so much.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be-
Right, it just lowers the number, that's what was concerned on, because if we got, so say if something came through, we got a big grant, we'd have to amend something or
Right.
run by less.
So the 10% applies to the transportation enterprise, so we'll just do the grant on
On
the
other
district side and we'll be fine.
Good, okay.
Yep.
That's what I was concerned about.
We need a motion?
So we need a motion to accept this resolution to create the Trinidad Ambulance District Transportation Enterprise.
I'll make a motion to accept the Trinidad Ambulance Transportation Enterprise.
Beat
Doing
me
great,
up,
bud.
Scotty. I'm sorry.
Doing great, bud.
Enterprise always puts me there.
Yeah.
So second,
I'll second it.
Nick,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
So you're not a next generation fan, huh?
I'm not a mini generation fan. So before leaving, I will need, Zach and Joe and Zach and Joe. That's it.
And then that will move us on to another motion I would like to introduce, which would be basically moving money from our construction loan over to the USDA loan within the Trinidad Ambulance District Transportation Enterprise.
What about seven of those words together? Get comfortable.
Oh, not again. How long is
This
this?
this one has
29
38
pages.
sections.
So we have to read the whole thing?
I do, because nobody was off, you guys were not privy to it before the board meeting, so I have to read it into the minutes.
38 pages? Serious?
Well, there's 38 sections, there's like
30.
29 pages.
Okay.
Here we go.
Get comfy, does anybody need a bathroom break?
Yeah,
A
strap
bottle of
in.
water?
Reclining chair?
Do you mind if I go?
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
Please.
If we're gonna,
Do you need
aren't we
me?
giving you like big dollars here to?
Yes, you need me to
You're
sit.
wiping out.
If I see you yawn one time, I swear. you better
Fine,
be so
leave,
into
go.
this meeting.
May I
Oh,
please?
sure,
Give it-
sure, now, 29 pages, they kind
Oh,
of.
yeah.
I canceled.
What if there's something in there that you know, legally gotta say, I don't know?
Okay, so pretty clear.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, my
All right,
And we still have
let's do this,
one,
because
two,
it's gonna
three,
take a
we still
while.
have 4 more. It's gonna push you like
I'll read real fast.
The Trinidad School Board's right around the corner, so if I get out of here, 10
What
to
time do
6.
you need to get out?
Okay.
About 10 to 6.
Oh, yeah, we can do
Yeah.
We
this.
got this.
Ready?
Read faster.
I will try.
Are you sure? I mean, you might really like this.
Yeah.
That's just it.
Bye, Les.
Good night, everybody.
It's a lot of.
See you, Les.
Nothing but love and respect
Thanks
for
for
everyone
saying
here.
that.
Love and
I'll be
respect
thinking
people.
about you.
Yeah, I know, that's
It's a
right.
lot of legalese.
I know, I hate to miss it. Good to see you, sir. Sir,
All right,
thank
Mark, go ahead, I'm
you.
gonna go to the restroom. You can read.
The Board of Directors of the Trinidad Ambulance District, acting as the governing body of the Trinidad Ambulance District Transportation Enterprise, met in regular session, full conformity with law, resolutions, and rules of the district at 929 Robinson Avenue, Trinidad, Colorado, and via virtual platform Zoom US, whereby all participants could be heard while being protected by the public from the publicity declared health risk associations with COVID-19 pandemic on Wednesday, June 26, 2024 at 4 p.m. Upon roll call, the following were present, constituting a quorum: Zachary Shapiro, Nicholas Medarano, Joseph Richards, Thomas Murphy. Also present, Gabriel Moreno, Executive Director. Thereupon, Director Zachary Shapiro introduced, and there was read in full the following resolution. So there are some blanks in this resolution because until we meet with the USDA, it won't be tomorrow. It'll probably be next week or the following with the
Thanks.
final numbers for what's gonna roll from the loan to us. So I don't have like the principal and the total amount yet, okay? A resolution of the Trinidad Ambulance District Transportation Enterprise authorizing the issuance of the enterprise's revenue bond in the aggregate principal amount of yet unknown, providing for the use of the bond proceeds to pay the costs of providing for the payment of the bond to the bonds from the net revenue derived from the operating of the enterprise's transportation system and making certain covenants in connection therewith, providing for the form, payment, and other details in connection with the bond, and authorizing the execution of certain agreements and documents in connection with the bond. Whereas the Trinidad Ambulance District, Colorado, also known as the district, is a special district and political subdivision of the state of Colorado, duly organized and operating under the Constitution and laws of the state, and is operating as an enterprise within the meaning of Article 10, Section 20 of the Colorado Constitution. And whereas the Trinidad Ambulance District Transportation Enterprise, known as the Enterprise, has no authority to levy or collect or use in its operations taxes, whether sales tax, use tax, ad valorem tax, and whereas the Board of Directors of the district is acting hereunder as the governing body of the enterprise, and whereas the enterprise is a government-owned business authorized to issue its own revenue bonds and receiving under 10% of annual revenue and grants from all Colorado state and local governments combined, and it is hereby determined that the enterprise is an enterprise within the meaning of Article 10, Section 20 of the Colorado Constitution. And whereas the district acting by and through the enterprise is heretofore determined and undertaken to acquire and develop certain properties and facilities for the development, operation, and provision of transportation services, which facilities are operated and maintained as part of the ambulance system of the district and the enterprise. And whereas the board acting by and through the enterprise has heretofore determined and hereby determines to construct new transportation and operation facilities and related improvements, also known as the project. And whereas long-term financing for the project has been made available through the United States of America, United States Department of Agriculture, also known as the USDA, Rural Development. And whereas the district acting by and through the enterprise is authorized by Title 32, Article 1, Part 11, Colorado Revised Statutes, and Article 10, Section 20, Colorado Constitution, to issue revenue bonds authorized by action of the board without approval of the electors of the district, such bonds to be issued in the manner provided in Part 4 of Article 35 of Title 31, Colorado Revised Statutes, and whereas none of the members of the board have any potential conflicting interests in connection with the authorization, issuance, or sale of the bonds or the use of the proceeds thereof. And whereas the board desires to authorize the issuance of a sale of the bonds and the execution of the foregoing documents, be it resolved by the board of directors of the district acting as the governing body of the Trinidad Ambulance District Transportation Enterprise, Trinidad, Colorado. Section 1, definitions. As used herein, do you want to sign these while I'm reading this? That way you
I
guys
do.
can get that done. Definition, as used herein, the following capitalized terms shall be
Thank
the
you.
respective meanings set forth below unless the context indicates otherwise. Additional bonds means one or more series of additional bonds, notes, interim securities, or other obligations issued by the enterprise pursuant to section 22 hereof, having a lien on the net revenue, which is on a parity with the lien of the bond authorized by this resolution. Agency, the Rural Development Office, or RD, together with the United States Department of Agriculture, Board of Directors of the district and governing body of the enterprise. Bond account. The bond account established by the provisions hereof for the purpose of paying the principal of premium, if any, and interest on the bonds and any parity lien bonds. Bond registrar. The treasurer of the district or any successor appointed hereunder, which shall perform the function of registrar with respect to the bond. Oh, that answered my question. Bond, the revenue bond series 2024, dated as of the date of issuance, issued in the aggregate principal amount of, yet unknown, as authorized by this resolution. Capital improvements, the acquisition of land, easement, facilities, and equipment other than ordinary repairs and replacements, and the construction or reconstruction of improvements, betterments, and extensions for use by or in connection with the project. Certified public accountant, an independent certified public accountant within the meaning of section 12-2-115 Colorado Revised Statute, and any amendment thereto licensed to practice in the state of Colorado. Code, Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended. Combined average annual principal and interest requirements with regard to any two or more particular issues of bonds or other obligations, the aggregate of all future payments of principal and interest on all of said issues, excluding redemption premiums, to become due from the date of computation to the date of maturity of the latest maturing obligation of any said, obligation of any said issues, divided by the number of years between said dates, provided that if any particular issue has a single principal payment date and is issued as interim notes or securities in anticipation of permanent financing, such as principal amount, shall be excluded from this computation, provided further that such computation shall assume the redemption and payment of bonds and other obligations subject to mandatory redemption, but shall be made without regard to any right of optional redemption which has not been exercised. Consulting engineer, any qualified, registered, or licensed professional engineer practicing under the laws of the state of Colorado who is independent in fact and not an officer or employee of the enterprise. Colorado Revised Statutes as amended and supplemented as of the date hereof. Debt service reserve, any amount equal to at least one annual loan installment that accumulates at the rate of 10% of the annual payment per year for 10 years or until the balance is equal to one annual loan payment of, which don't yet have, which reserve may not be used without prior written approval of RD or other owner of the bond. Enterprise, the Trinidad Ambulance District Transportation Enterprise established pursuant to Resolution 24-0001 of the district. Event of default. Any one or more of the events set forth in a section hereof entitled Events of Default. Federal securities. Direct obligations of, including obligations issued or held in book entry form on the books of, or obligations the principal of and interest on which are guaranteed by the United States of America. Fiscal year, the 12-month commencing January 1 of any year and ending December 31st of said year. Gross revenue. All income and revenues directly or indirectly derived from the enterprise from the operation and provision of services or any part thereof, including without limitation any rates, fees, standby charges, availability fees, tolls, and charges for the services furnished by or the use of facilities and emergency vehicles, and all income attributable to and past or future dispositions of property or rights or related contracts, settlements, or judges held or obtained in connection with the enterprise or its operations, and including investment income accruing from the monies held to the credit of the bond account, provided, however, that there shall be excluded from gross revenue any monies borrowed or used for providing capital improvements, any money in securities, investment income therefrom, in any refunding fund, escrow account, or similar account pledged to the payment of any bonds or other obligations, and any monies received as grants or appropriations from the United States, the state of Colorado, or other sources, the use of which is limited or restricted by the grantor or donor to the provision of capital improvements or for other purposes resulting in the general unavailability thereof, except to the extent any such monies shall be received as payments for the use of the project services rendered thereby, the availability of any such service, or the disposal of any commodities therefrom. Loan resolution. The Form RD 1942-47 loan resolution, public bodies between the enterprise and the Office of Rural Development of the United States of Agriculture, dated, we don't have it dated yet, and certified as a loan closing, a copy of which is appended to this resolution as Exhibit A, which we will add once we get it. Net revenue, the gross revenue after deducting the operation and maintenance expenses. Operation and maintenance expenses, all reasonable and necessary current expenses of the enterprise paid or accrued for operating, maintaining, and repairing the facilities and emergency vehicles, including without limitation legal and overhead expenses of the enterprise directly related to the administration of these services, insurance, premiums, audits, charges of depository banks and paying agents, professional services and salaries and administrative expenses, labor, and the cost of materials and supplies for current operation. Provided, however, that there shall be excluded from the operation and maintenance expenses any allowance for depreciation payments in lieu of taxes or franchise fees, legal liabilities not based on contract expenses incurred in connection with capital improvements, payments due in connection with any bonds or other obligations, and charges for the accumulation of reserves. Owner, the registered owner of any bond as shown by the registration books maintained by the bond registrar. Parity lien bonds. One or more series of additional bonds, notes, interim securities, or other obligations issued by the enterprise pursuant to the section hereof entitled Additional Bonds, having a lien on the net revenue, which is on a parity with the lien on the bond. Paying agent, the treasurer of the district, or any successor appointed hereunder, which shall perform the function of paying agent with respect to the bond. Project, the acquisition and construction of a principal business and operations facility and all necessary or appropriate appurtenances, property rights and equipment. Project account. The project account established by the provisions hereof of the purpose of paying the project costs. Project costs. The cost of the enterprise properly attributable to the project or any part thereof and permitted by the provisions of section 32-1-1001F and H Colorado Revised Statute, including without limitation, A, costs of labor, materials, machinery, furnishings, equipment, restoration of property damaged or destroyed in connection with construction work. B, the cost of insurance premiums, indemnity and fidelity bonds, financing charges, bank fees, taxes, or other municipal and government charges lawfully levied or assessed. C, administrative and general overhead costs. D, the cost of reimbursing funds advanced by the enterprise in anticipation of reimbursement from bond proceeds, including any intra-fund or inter-fund loan. E, the cost of surveys, appraisals, plans, designs, specifications, and estimates. F, the cost of fees and expenses of printers, engineers, architects, financial consultants, legal advisors, or other agents or employees. G, the cost of publishing, reproducing, posting, mailing, or recording documents. H, the cost of contingencies or reserve. I, the cost of issuing the bond. J, the cost of amending any resolution or other instrument relating to the bond or the project. K, the cost of repaying any short-term financing, construction loans, other temporary loans, and of the incidental expenses incurred in connection with such loans. L, the cost of acquiring any property rights, easements, licenses, privileges, acknowledgements, and franchises. M, the cost of demolition, removal, and relocation. N, administrative, operating, and other expenses of the enterprise prior to and during the acquisition period and for a period of not exceeding 1 year thereafter. And O, all other lawful costs as determined by the board. RD, USDA, the Office of Rural Development of the United States Department of Agriculture. Record date, the 15th day of the calendar month next preceding each interest payment date. Resolution or bond resolution. This resolution, which authorizes the issuance of the bond, including any amendments properly made hereto. Revenue fund, the fund of the enterprise designated as revenue fund established by resolution of the board. Short-lived asset reserve fund, the fund of the enterprise designated for the replacement of short-lived assets, those assets having a proposed use life of significantly less than 35 years, which shall be funded beginning in 2024 by the enterprise, crediting to said short-lived asset reserve fund in the amount of not yet determined annually for the life of the loan to pay for repairs and or replacing major facility assets. Subordinate lien bonds, one or more series of additional bonds, notes, interim securities, or other obligations issued by the enterprise pursuant to section 22 hereof, having a lien on the net revenue which is subordinate or junior to the lien of the board authorized by this resolution. System, all the facilities and properties of the enterprise now owned or hereafter acquired, whether situated within or without the boundaries of the district, including all present or future improvements, extensions, enlargements, betterments, replacements, or additions thereof or thereto, which comprise the enterprise. USDA, the United States of America, acting through the United States Department of Agriculture. Section 2. Authorization. In accordance with the Constitution of the State of Colorado, Title 11, Article 57, Part 2, Colorado Revised Statute, Title 32, Article 1, Colorado Revised Statute, and all other laws of the State of Colorado thereunto enabling, there shall be issued the authorized revenue bond series 2024 of the enterprise in the aggregate principal amount of, yet to be determined, for the purpose of paying the project costs. The accomplishment of the project is hereby authorized, approved, and ordered. Section 3, special obligations. The bond, together with the interest thereon, shall be payable only out of the bond account into which the enterprise covenants to deposit the net revenue in amounts sufficient to pay when due the principal of an interest on the bond, or to, if necessary, the debt service reserve. The bond and the interest thereon constitute a lien, but not necessarily an exclusive such lien on the net revenue, and the net revenue is hereby pledged to payment of the bond. The owners may not look to any general or other fund of the district or the enterprise for payment of the principal of and interest on the bond, except the funds and accounts pledged thereto by this resolution, and the bond shall not constitute a debt or an indebtedness of the district within the meaning of Articles 11, Section 16 of the Colorado Constitution, or any other statutory provision or limitation, nor shall they be considered or held to be general obligations of the district. Section 4, bond details. The bond shall be issued only as fully registered bond as to both principal and interest without coupons in the aggregate denomination of, yet to be determined. The outstanding principal amount of the bond shall equal the principal amount. The registered bond shall be numbered R-1 and shall be registered in the name of the United States of America, Section 11-57-204 Colorado Revised Statute provides that a public entity, including the enterprise, may elect in an act of issuance to apply all or any of the provisions of Title 11, Article 57, Part 2, Colorado Revised Statute. The board hereby elects to apply certain portions of Title 11, Article 57, Part 2, Colorado Revised Statute to the bond. The bond shall be dated as of their date of issuance and shall bear interest at the rate of 2.5% per annum, payable to the owner of the bond on the unpaid balance of the total principal advanced from the date or dates advanced. Payment, principal, and interest shall be paid monthly, commencing 1 month after the date of closing, and shall mature 35 years from the date of issuance. Each monthly payment of principal and interest shall be in the amount of yet to be determined or such lesser amount. Interest on the bond shall be calculated on the basis of 365-day years required by applicable RD regulations. The maximum net effective interest rate for this bond is 2.5% per annum, and the actual net effective interest rate of the bond does not exceed such rate. Section 5, payment of bond, paying agent, and bond registrar. The principal and interest on the bond is payable in lawful money of the United States of America to the owner of each bond upon maturity or prior redemption and presentation at the principal office of the paying agent. The interest on any bond is payable to the person in whose name such bond is registered at his address as it appears on the registration books maintained by or on behalf of the enterprise by the bond registrar at the close of business on the record date, irrespective of any transfer or exchange of such bonds subsequent to such record date and prior to such interest payment date. Principal and interest payments shall be made through an electronic pre-authorized debit system. The paying agent may make payments of principal and interest on any bond by such alternative means as may be mutually agreed to between the owner of such bond and the paying agent. Provided that the enterprise shall not be required to make funds available to the paying agent prior to the dates on which such interest would be otherwise be payable hereunder, nor to incur any expense in connection with such alternative means of payment. Prepayments of scheduled installments or any portion thereof may be made at any time at the option of the enterprise. Refunds, extra payments, and loan proceeds obtained from outside sources for the purpose of paying down the agency debt shall, after payment of interest, be applied to the installments last to become due under the bond and shall not affect the obligation of the enterprise to pay the remaining installments as scheduled in the bond. Notwithstanding the foregoing or anything else herein to the contrary, the principal and interest on any bond registered in the name of the United States of America shall be paid by completing Form RD 3550-28 to pre-authorize electronic debts directed to the USDA Rural Development, Denver Federal Center, Building 56, Room 2300, P.O. Box 25426, Denver, Colorado, or at such other place or in such other manner as may be indicated by RD. Section 6, prior redemption. The bond is subject to redemption prior to maturity at the option of the enterprise as a whole or portion thereof on any date upon payment of par and accrued interest without redemption premium. In the event the bond or portion thereof is called for redemption as aforesaid, notice therefore identifying the bond or portion thereof to be redeemed will be given by the board registrar by mailing a copy of the redemption notice by first-class mail, postage prepaid, not less than 30 days prior to the date fixed for redemption to the owner shown on the registration books maintained by the bond registrar. The redemption of the bond may be contingent or subject to such conditions as may be specified in the notice. The bond or a portion thereof so called for redemption will cease to bear interest after the specified redemption date, provided funds for redemption are on deposit at the place of payment at that time. Section 7, form an executive bond. The bond shall be signed with the manual signature of the president of the district, sealed with a manual impression of the seal of the district, and attested by the manual signature of the district secretary. Should any officer whose manual signature appears on the bond cease to be such officer before delivery of the bond to the purchaser, such manual signature shall nevertheless be valid and sufficient for all purposes. The bond shall be substantially the following form. Oh my Lord. Do I have to read the whole bond thing?
We can trade off if you're feeling tired.
Okay, we're good. Okay, form of bond. So it is a form, it's got the interest rate of 2.5%, maturity date yet to be determined, original issue date yet to be determined, address of the USDA, and principal amount yet to be determined. The Trinidad Ambulance District, the County of Los Animas, and State of Colorado, a quasi-municipal corporation and political subdivision duly organized and operating under the Constitution and laws of the State of Colorado by and through its Trinidad Ambulance District Transportation Enterprise, for value received hereby promises to pay solely out of the special accounts herein after designated but not otherwise to this registered owner named above, or registered assigns in accordance with the payment set forth herein until the maturity date, or on the date of prior redemption, the principal amount specified above, or such lesser amount as shall represent the aggregate principal amount advanced as of currently blank. The enterprise promises to make payments in a timely manner as determined by USDARD documents of principal and interest in the amount of yet to be determined, or such lesser amount as determined by the United States Department of Agriculture, Rural Development as of unknown yet, as shown on the principal advance panel appended hereto, payable as established in the USDA contract commencing on date unknown. Interest shall be calculated as required by applicable United States of America Rural Development regulations. The principal of and interest on this bond shall be paid through an electronic pre-authorized debt system established through submission of our Form RD 3550-28 authorization agreement for pre-authorized payment. The pre-authorized payment authorization will cause payments to be electronically debited from the enterprise's account on the day each payment is due. Payment of interest and each installment of principal and interest shall be made to the registered owner hereof, whose name shall appear on the registration books of the enterprise maintained by the treasurer of the Trinidad Ambulance District, acting as the treasurer of the enterprise, or his or her successor as bond registrar, as agreed based on the USDA contract, next preceding each payment date. If the date for making any payment or performing any action shall be a legal holiday or a day on which the principal office of the paying agent or bond registrar is authorized or required by law to remain closed, such payment shall be made or act performed on the next preceding day, which is not a legal holiday or a day on which the principal office of the paying agent or the bond registrar is authorized or required by law to remain closed. This bond shall not be valid or become obligatory for any purpose or be entitled to any security or benefit under the authorizing bond resolution until the certificate of authentication hereon shall have been signed by the bond registrar. This bond is issued by the Board of Directors of the Trinidad Ambulance District in the County of Los Animas and State of Colorado, acting by and on behalf of the Trinidad Ambulance District, acting by and through its Trinidad Ambulance District Transportation Enterprise for the purpose of paying the costs of providing certain transportation facilities by virtue of and in full conformity with the Constitution of the State of Colorado, Title 32, Article 1, Colorado Revised Statute, Title 31, Article 35.4, Part 4, Colorado Revised Statute, Title 11, Article 57, Part 2, Colorado Revised Statute, and all other laws of the state of Colorado thereunto enabling and pursuant to the duly adopted resolution authorizing the issuance of this bond. Pursuant to Section 413 Colorado Revised Statute, such recital shall conclusively impart full compliance with all of the provisions in said statutes, and this bond issued containing such recital is incontestable for any cause whatsoever after its duly delivery for value. It is hereby recited, certified, and warranted that all of the requirements of law have been fully complied with by the proper officers in issuing this bond. Pursuant to Section 11-57-210 of Colorado Revised Statute, the above recital is conclusive evidence of the validity and regularity of the issuance of this bond after its delivery for value. The principal of and interest on this bond are payable only out of one special account of the enterprise designated as the bond account, into which the enterprise covenants and agrees to deposit from the revenues derived from the operation of the system after deduction of the operations and maintenance costs or net revenue. The amount sufficient to pay the principal and interest on the bonds when the same become due and payable, and two, if necessary, a special account of the enterprise designated as the debt service reserve, all as more particularly set forth in the bond resolution. The bond and the interest therein constitute an irrevocable lien, but not necessarily an exclusive lien, on the net revenue as defined in the bond resolution. Subject to express conditions, obligations in addition to this bond may be issued and made payable from the net revenue having a lien thereon, subordinate and junior to the lien of this bond, or subject to additional express conditions having a lien on the net revenue on a parity with the lien of this bond in accordance with the provisions of the bond resolution. It is hereby recited, certified, and warranted that for the payment of this bond, the enterprise has created and will maintain the special accounts referred to above and will deposit therein out of the net revenue the amounts specified in the bond resolution, and out of such accounts as are irrevocable charged thereon, will pay the principal of and interest on this bond in the manner provided by the bond resolution. This bond does not constitute a debt or indebtedness of the district within the meaning of Article 10, Section 6 of the Colorado Constitution, or any statutory provision or limitation, and shall not be considered or held to be a general obligation of the district, which is acting on behalf of itself and the Trinidad Ambulance District Transportation Enterprise. The enterprise has no authority to levy or collect or use in its operations taxes, whether sales tax, use tax, or an ad valorem tax. Reference is hereby made to the bond resolution for an additional description of the nature and extent of the security for this bond, the funds and revenues pledged to the payment thereof, the rights and remedies of the registered owners of this bond, the manner in which the bond resolution may be amended, and the other terms and conditions upon which bonds are issued, copies of which are on file for public inspection at the office of the district. This bond or portion thereof is subject to redemption prior to maturity at the option of the enterprise on any date upon payment of par and accrued interest without redemption premium. Notice of the prior redemption shall be given by mailing a copy of the redemption notice not less than 30 days prior to the date fixed for redemption to the registered owner of this bond at the address shown on the registration books maintained by the bond registrar in the manner set forth in the bond resolution. All principal amounts called for redemption will cease to bear interest after the specified redemption date, provided funds for their redemption are on deposit at this place of payment at that time. So long as the bond is registered in the name of the United States of America, no deficits of bond or escrow may be established for the deficits of the bonds. The enterprise and bond registrar shall not be required to issue or transfer this bond, A, during a period beginning at the close of business on the record date and ending at the opening of business on the first day of business following the ensuing payment date, or B, during the period beginning at the opening of business on a day 45 days prior to the date of any redemption of any principal and ending at the opening of business on the first day of business following the day on which the applicable notice of redemption is mailed. The bond registrar shall not be required to transfer this bond if any part hereof has been selected or called for redemption. The enterprise, the paying agent, and the bond registrar may redeem and treat the registered owner of this bond as the absolute owner hereof for all purposes, whether or not this bond shall be overdue. And any notice to the contrary shall not be binding upon the enterprise, the paying agent, or the bond registrar. The bond is transferable by the registered owner hereof in person or by his attorney duly authorized in writing at the principal office of the bond registrar, but only in the manner subject to limitations upon payment of the charges provided in the bond resolution and upon surrender and cancellation of this bond. This bond may be transferred upon the registration books upon delivery to the bond registrar of this bond, accompanied by a written instrument or instruments of transfer in form and with guarantee of signature satisfactory to the bond registrar, duly executed by the owner of this bond or his attorney in fact or legal representative, containing written instructions as to the details of the transfer of the bond, along with the social security number of federal employer identification number of such transferee. In the event of the transfer of this bond, the bond registrar shall enter the transfer of ownership in the registration books and shall authenticate and deliver in the name of the transferee or transferees a new fully registered bond of the same principal and interest installments and interest rate for the aggregate principal amount which the registered owner is entitled to receive at the earliest practical time. The bond registrar shall charge the owner of this bond for every such transfer an amount sufficient to reimburse it for its reasonable fees and for any tax or other governmental charge required to be paid with respect to such transfer exchange. In testimony hereof, the Board of Trustees of the Trinidad Ambulance District, by and through its Trinidad Ambulance District Transportation Enterprise, has caused this bond to be signed by the manual signature of the president of the district, sealed with the district seal, and attested by the manual signature of the district secretary. Certificate of authentication, here's your principal advanced form, in the form of transfer. Oh my Lord, but we're not gonna transfer, right?
No.
Do you feel I need to read the form of transfer?
No.
Wouldn't think so.
Good, reckon that. It's here, if anyone chooses to spend some time reading the form to transfer or for a bond.
There are a couple businesses in there.
Right. And then it has your signature page. It was therefore moved by Director so-and-so and seconded by Director that the foregoing resolution introduced at this meeting as foresaid be passed and adopted. It's got your voting and signatures. And then I, Joseph Richards, District Secretary, Trinidad Ambulance District, Trinidad, Colorado, do hereby certify that the foregoing pages number 2 through 30 inclusive constitute a full and correct copy of the record of the proceedings of the Board of Directors of the Trinidad Ambulance District, acting as the governing body of the Trinidad Ambulance District Transportation Enterprise, taken at a regular meeting thereof held on Wednesday, the 26th day of June, 2024, at 939 Robinson Avenue, and via virtual platform zoom.us, so far as said minutes relate to the resolution concerning the issuance of the revenue bonds for 2024 of the Trinidad Ambulance District Transportation Enterprise. That said resolution has been duly authenticated by the signatures of the presiding officer of the District Board of Directors and myself as District Secretary, sealed with the corporate seal of the district, and the resolution recorded in the book kept for that purpose of the district's office.
With your corporate seal.
I have it right here.
So we need a motion to,
Standing ovation there.
as forementioned.
Come on.
The resolution, what is the title of that resolution?
It's a long one.
Yeah,
A resolution of the Trinidad Ambulance District Transportation Enterprise authorizing the issuance of enterprise's revenue bond in the aggregate principal amount of, to be determined, providing for the use of the bond proceeds to pay the costs of providing for the payment of the bonds from the net revenue derived from the operation of the enterprise's transportation system, and making certain covenants in connection therewith, providing from the form, payment, and other details in connection with the bond, and authorizing the execution of certain agreements and documents in connection with the bond.
Can we make a
Did you
motion
say
without the numbers being in?
Yes, we can. We do that periodically, well, we do it every year with the resolution to potentially revise our budget. Because we have to put our budget in so early, we do that other resolution to revise ahead of time because of the time crunches, so we can. And at any time, it can be reviewed by whomever once we plug those numbers in. But I won't have them from the USDA until probably next week. And we wanted to close out that interim construction loan as quickly as possible at 9.5%. So we brought it to the board today to get ahead of it a little bit until we find the numbers. So yes, in a long way, we can. I feel like I'm still reading.
Well, I'll make a motion, I can't repeat the.
As aforementioned.
Yeah, the aforementioned title that we accept it as written
Okay,
and execute it accordingly.
okay. Once we plug in the USDA and interim construction loan amounts.
And use our corporate stamp.
Yes, I got one.
I'll second it.
A long one.
Yeah.
Or more, hit two of them back to back.
Oh, yeah.
Nick,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Yeah, at first I liked
I
that
feel
you
a
were
little
reading it,
giddy.
and then I felt bad.
The good thing is she got all her talking out here, so tomorrow,
I'm
Nice.
calling in sick. I
You did this on purpose. That was all filler words.
yeah.
I've got a sore throat tomorrow.
Mr. Chairman, I have to run. Can we move to item 13 and jump over so I just had one miscellaneous item that I had to bring up.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and move item number 13 up to,
So you sign those before he leaves?
Yeah.
if you'll, you want to sign them first. We'll, for sake of time, we'll move miscellaneous up to item number 11 for Joe.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to bring up, Barbara and I talked about, there was a check that ran across for signature that was to her husband. And I know we're going to total transparency for this group. That's one of our claims to fame. So I asked Barbara to explain it. So I could, Barbara, would you mind explaining what your husband does for the district and why that came to be?
Sure. When we started going through the process of our construction at our new property, the USDA required we have a resident inspector as part of the process. We put out feelers to several people and no one was interested. My husband, Bernard Fisk, was also not interested, repeatedly. But we couldn't start our construction progress until we had that resident inspector. So I went back to Bernard Fisk and said, "You're now retired, and we need to start our project. I really need a resident inspector whom will be the voice of Trinidad Ambulance District for the purpose of being eyes on the ground, eyes and boots on the ground daily, to make sure everything was getting done for the district." And so he agreed that he would step into that role and sit there and review everything. If there's ever any questions, we have his daily notes that have also been submitted to the USDA for their files as well. But that's his role.
Okay, what is it, resident inspectors? That mean that they're residing here locally?
Yes, they're a local person who will be on the grounds of the construction site daily, keeping track of what's delivered, what vehicles are there, what crews are there, what everything's being done, if there's any discrepancies to report back to the district, so that the district can know what's going on, if there's any problems they need to be aware of, kind of as an intermediary.
I think that's a good thing because without naming certain projects that after being here that I'm aware of and some of the things that have been done, you think, and myself with limited knowledge, I've done 3 projects and stood over all of it and caught things even with my lack of expertise. But there was one major project where they put in residential plumbing into a facility that had many people in it. And something like that doesn't take a construction experience or degree, so that's encouraging.
And it's also, just to be aware, I maybe should have mentioned this, he does have a construction background.
Right.
He's built 3 homes. He also worked for a very large commercial construction company when we were in New York. So they did a lot of stadiums, football fields, schools. They did a lot of commercial work. And he also worked for the city in their engineering department. So he had that background as well.
Are his notes, if they go back in 10 years and go, why'd they do that? It's there? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Cool.
I have put them in the packet for the whole project. And like I said, the USDA also has copies of all of them.
Okay. And that's one of the reasons I wanted Joe on the board too, is because he had construction experience, and I was hopeful that, representing the taxpayers, that we're not going to get burned again.
Right.
I
And
know
that was why- I
too
think
many.
That's why the USDA really wanted someone on site every day to be an advocate for the district, you know, so.
Okay.
Thank you, Barbara.
Any other questions or miscellaneous?
Sorry, I gotta run.
Oh, no worries. Thank you for staying as long as you did.
Did you sign
Face the school-
everything?
Gonna face the school district, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
So it'll make this look like a walk in the park.
Thank you.
Thank you.
3122, do you copy that? Trinidad 3122.
Okay, so that will move us on to now item number 12, which will be the director's report now.
You can copy it. Sequence.
No updates for medical direction. Everything's on track. Billing company, our new billing company, year-to-date net collections are at
Trinidad
$584,758.
3122. Good.
Our old AR's been coming
Any
up,
copy direct, you can show us it being down in front of local copy.
so we've collected $9,360 on our old AR, so that's good. It's come up quite a bit.
Okay, is that it?
And Les just left, but I asked him for an update on the old billing company. We have not heard back from their attorney, and I told him that we really need to get this resolved. So, he sent an email today. I was CC'd on it, so we're just waiting to hear back on what we're doing with that. The USDA new building update, we received the certificate of occupancy late last week.
Nice.
We're gonna complete our final walkthrough punch list tomorrow morning, and we're hoping to transfer and close out that loan by mid-July.
Nice.
So we'll do our punch list first thing tomorrow morning about 9. USDA will be down here at 10:30 to do hopefully our final pay app. And we'll do the final walkthrough, and he'll give us our keys and kick everybody out, and it'll be ours.
Nice. So you have a potential, like a projected time for when you think you might be moving in?
I'm hoping mid-July. I was thinking probably the second week, but we're still waiting on some stuff to be delivered.
Okay.
And we gotta transfer that loan and do some other paperwork type things. So, I mean,
That's
no
awesome.
later than the end of July,
That's awesome.
so we should be good. Remount, so we're picking up 2302 on Friday. And as soon as we get it back here, it can be placed in service. It's just gotta get the equipment added to it, so we're good there. We should be hearing about our trauma grant sometime this week. That's the grant that we applied for new cardiac monitors. And the reviewers had great comments. Got to see those yesterday, so it's looking like a positive thing. So hopefully we'll have new monitors by the end of the year.
Sweet.
And I filed my CDPHE complaint on June 18th against the hospital. As of May 30th, there was 186 interfacility transfers. 80 of those were denied for medical necessity. Of that 80, I submitted 35 to CDPHE
Cool.
as a complaint.
Good. Okay.
And then there were 2 others that I submitted that were canceled before we got there because the patient found another ride home.
What?
Yeah. And I also reported 2 EMS agencies to the state, Legacy and South Fork.
Okay.
So those were submitted and we'll see what happens.
Did you ever, did you say that one MMT was gonna do an MOU with
Yeah, I
us?
haven't heard from them. I actually called Jason last week and still haven't heard back from him, so I don't know what's going on with that.
Okay. Okay.
I'll give it a little bit longer and I'll reach out again and
Cool.
see where we're at.
We probably said we don't want to go mess with this.
Yeah, he's like, let's stay
Yeah,
home.
yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
And just some little quick updates. May 30th, Dr. Becker was here, provided our MAM, medication assisted airway management credentialing for all of our paramedics. We're officially back on the Southern RETAC guidelines. June 6th, Barb met with the Colonial Life rep, and there might be an opportunity to provide staff with term life insurance in the future. So we'll look at that when we look at budgeting and stuff, and see if anybody's interested. June 13th, we did a walkthrough of the new station, and we did our owner's training. So they trained us on all of the systems over there, so
Nice. That's cool.
that was good. And then June 23rd, which was this last Sunday, the on-call crew and I attended the 110th annual Ludlow Memorial Anniversary. And that was pretty busy. I was kind of surprised. And it was a hot day, so it was a good thing we were out there.
For sure.
It was uneventful, but it was cool to be out there and kind of mingle, so. That's all I have.
Any questions? And that'll move us on to item number 13 now, Operations Fleet Report.
All right, 202 calls for service for the month of May. That's up 43 calls from the previous month. Our third ambulance did 4 calls with 3 transported. Gabe and I had each 1 call, and that was the same call. And that was actually a fire call. We put a fire out for them. We had 30 IFTs. That's down from 4 from the month before. And we did transport 1 back home from the ER. So year to date, we're at 146. IFT miles for month of May was 6,138. Year to date, IFT miles is 27,950.
For all those IFTs we
Yeah, for all the
talked
ones that
to.
we don't do, yeah.
Yeah. We did not, or we took all the IFTs that we were dispatched to for month of May. Lieutenant Bacharach has started her, I found out today she's very, very close starting her internship, hopefully be done with her paramedic internship by the end of the year.
Nice.
On one of those IFTs that we don't take, we struck a deer. And
Everybody okay?
everybody's okay, except for the deer.
That's, and not
And
even the cute
now
whitetail ones.
that truck is down in Albuquerque, in the body shop. We're expecting that truck should come back probably mid-July.
Okay,
So it's already
damage
been
wasn't
out,
too
it's already
bad.
been out.
No,
We're
just getting parts.
So,
Okay.
yeah, patient, we didn't have a patient on board and crew was all fine.
Cool.
So right now we have three out of the 6 trucks in service. One of those, like I said, we were talking before the meeting, we've been having AC issues. And one of our trucks has the emergency lights and siren brain boxes out, so that's not in service. So, but good news, like Chief said, we'll have 2302 back on Friday and get that up and running. So, I normally, as a rule, usually do the month of May in my report, but there's some things that came up in June that I wanted you guys to be aware of. There was 4.5 days that we were unable to take IFTs, and that was due to mechanical issues. As we were talking before the meeting, in one day we had four trucks go down. One was an antifreeze leak and AC, as well as we took it to M&M and found a bunch of deficits from when D&T did the motor replacement. So it had to go down there, which also takes time. We had the other one that got the new engine had a faulty injector. We had a blown radiator hose, which I might mention that was en route to a call. So I've reached out to, which is our prior executive director, Brandon Chambers, and he's looking into getting me the critical failure report that he had at DMR and that they used, so that we can keep up on that. Good news is, both Chief and I responded, we're responding to that call, and that call ended up being unfounded. but it was a critical failure because it was en route to the
Right, yeah.
Fourth was transmission issue. That transmission is on the newest rig. It's already been down for 2 recalls, and I have it scheduled as soon as we get the other one back from Albuquerque. It's going down there because we're about at 60,000 miles. When that warranty runs out, I want to make sure that we get everything checked out and done for that. And for June, just to bring up, we did not take one IFT thus far, and that was due to amount of calls, and the risk assessment was scored out on both crews. And the other transfer, they held till the next morning for a fresh crew because the patient didn't need to go and didn't need any services until well after they got there. So, and that was agreed to by the ER provider, and I spoke with her personally.
So you're saying there was only one that we missed from that 4-day
From the
period?
score assessment, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, and that
Just
wasn't
held
even,
over.
okay, cool, so that wasn't even the maintenance issues on the trucks?
No, that wasn't a
Cool.
main issue.
Cool.
That was, we actually scored out for safety.
Yeah.
So, and then the only other thing was, there was another call on 6/18, that we had a power surge the day before that knocked out, computers upstairs in the lieutenant's office. Come to find out, it also knocked out our radio system and our overhead speakers. So during that night, there was a page that we missed. So that is another one that'll be going down as a critical failure. Come to find out on another note, found out by the crews that that patient ultimately went by POV to the ER and then left AMA. So,
Okay.
not that makes it any
Right,
better.
it's still, that one
But
situation is nice.
at the end of the day, we, as Joe said, we're gonna be transparent, those
I
are
appreciate
documented, if there's incident reports to follow up on both of them. So, and that's my report, any questions?
So a couple questions. What's critical failure mean?
So critical failure is,
We're responding
failure.
to a 911 call and we can't make it to that call for whatever reason. Vehicle failure, something happens.
Or like,
An
yeah, or
accident.
like technology
An
not
accident.
giving the call over, or
Right.
things like that.
or it would be even I would consider a critical failure would be a mechanical failure on an IFT on the way with the patient. Would be a
Right, 'cause
Yeah,
the
if
patient
we
was-
can't complete
Yeah.
the mission.
So what if we have 6 ambulances, right? We've gone down to 1 or 2 at times. What if we had something where they were all out? Is there like a FEMA backup where you guys could call somebody and say, we can't even make, I can see IFTs coming from somewhere else, but what if somebody down the road has a heart
What does
attack?
happen in
So
that situation
what we
for
do
911?
is we have the QRT rigs. We have 3 full-size ambulances without in the county, okay? Those all have, typically are high miles, a lot older vehicles. So we try to
So
keep
like the
those in the
volunteer
area.
units.
Yep.
So those are district-owned vehicles. There's one in Honey, one in Aguilar, one in Stonewall, and then we have 2 expeditions out there as well. So we have 5 other vehicles out there.
Right.
So now, with that, we jockey a lot of stuff around. We bring those units in. So we still have units to make those calls. So when I talk about the 3 out of 6, those are our main units. We still have 5 other units out in the county.
Okay,
Okay.
so we've got a good buffer.
And those are
But-
safe to use locally and in the county, but we have had issues with those, and that's why they were taken out of service, out of primary service. They're not safe for inter-facility transfers. So when we bring those in,
Oh,
that's
because
why
of
we
the high
can't,
mileage.
yeah, that's
Gotcha.
why we can't do the inter-facilities with those rigs.
What, as critical as everything is mechanically, would, in the new facility, would it behoove us maybe to hire somebody that's a mechanic?
It's
I
funny you mention
I
that.
have actually considered that, so.
I've been in both types of services.
Yeah, so if we can fit it in the budget somewhere down the line and find a good mechanic, that's definitely an option.
Yeah.
And we're all diesel.
It,
No,
No.
No.
so we're switching to gas.
Okay, That would be even better.
2302 will be gas, and 3103, the one that's already up there, is gas.
Okay.
So we're switching back to gas.
So here's another thing that I guess, so Rico from the city shops is kind of going on his own. He's not a bad mechanic. He
I
cares.
actually know Rico, and he's actually a pretty good mechanic.
Ogeen?
Mhm.
So he's
Yeah,
got a,
he's-
I can't remember, he just started on the side.
VR
well,
Automotives, he just started a new one on the
Well,
side of
and
his
he's
own.
mobile.
Okay.
And he was trained under Christopher Rowe.
Well, and I duly respect that, but I will tell you, we have,
I know, I'm just throwing him out there.
so, that's the other thing, is finding something. Christopher's always taken really good care of it. He is a little more expensive, but he did find the stuff that was left out when the other mechanic did stuff. So that leaves us in a thing, kind of like what I said with the surgeon, or no, I explained at the trauma meeting. So when a surgeon does a surgery in a certain hospital, that patient has to go back to that surgeon because no other surgeon wants to touch it, right?
Right.
So we
Right.
got to do that with those two rigs for the most part.
Okay.
Right.
So nevertheless, I will tell you, we do try to keep everything going. It's not that we've never been to a point where we didn't have an ambulance. When I talk about that, that's our 6 main ambulance.
Got you.
Right. I would, if it worked out financially, or if you found a grant or whatever, it just,
Yeah, whether
You know, every
it be a
time
grant or
the-
next year on the budget workup or whatever, it might be a good thing to.
Yeah, you have
See
a
if we
mobile
can
guy.
fit.
I mean, I'm not saying you have to use him all the time, but I mean, if you at least have somebody that's mobile, willing to come out and work on it. I mean,
Did-
Might just reach out to him and see if we can work with him on the side for now. I don't know that we'll be able to fit our own mechanic into the budget anytime soon.
Yeah, so he's
Especially
mobile,
with
so
the
you can
loan
use him
and everything.
Yeah.
Then you have
So you're thinking
space.
just like using him instead of going to the shop to
Right.
go to or whatever.
But if he can come to us and then use our space
Right.
as a start, that might be a good thing.
Like I said, he's got the experience with the fleets and everything, so just an idea.
Cool. Any
Interesting.
other questions? Sweet, and that moves us on to item number 14, next regular meeting date. Which
We
I
made it.
have- Yeah, dude,
24th, 31st.
touch and go.
24th.
Yeah, that's what I've got as well. So 24th at 4 PM. And then that moves us on to item number 15, need a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
I'll second it. Too bad, Tom.
That was
Huh?
Yeah.
It's all right. It was getting there.
Yes.
So the 24th,
The best
Yeah.
part, but you
Yes.
can't put us to sleep if you're reading, sorry.
Okay, we gotta vote on this though. Nick,
Yes.
Joe? No, Tom.
Yes, yes.
I put my note on the wrong one. And Zach.
Yes.
Okay.
So what
Sorry about
happens
that,
if somebody
Tom.
else would have had to leave? Would we have to stay in this meeting because you wouldn't be able to get out of it?
Yeah, 'cause
You
I'm
didn't
sure
have a
too,
quorum.
you know.
Right. Yeah, we would have had to, yeah,